Hey babe, welcome to Boss Less Babe More. This is your go-to podcast for burnout girlies ready to align their brand and business. I'm Grace, alignment coach and Akashic record reader.
And I'm Réka, designer and brand strategist. Together, we're here to share what it really takes to build a brand and business that feels aligned, supportive, and actually sustainable.
Get valuable insight from two recovering boss babes and a chance to sit in the hot seat so you can receive on-the-spot brand clarity or coaching from women who get it.
Not to mention, exclusive invites to our brand rebirth intensives and retreats.
So if you're ready to unboss a little, soften a lot, and build a life and brand that reflects something real,
we are overjoyed to welcome you to our wholesome, quirky, and wildly transformational corner of the internet.
Hey guys, welcome back to this week's episode where I'm going to be interviewing Réka about the amazing work that she does. Obviously, she's a brand designer, but I think that, and even whenever I met you, we kind of had a conversation of what actually does a brand designer do? What is it that you do? And so I would love to dive down this rabbit hole with you today and talk about what are the inner workings of design and how you play with your creation process in helping people to build their brand, create a logo, work on the website, all of these things that are involved in brand design. So what is a brand designer? What does a brand designer do?
Thank you so much for this question. Hi, guys. So I did not call myself a brand designer straight out of school because I didn't know what a brand designer was. But really, I would say a well-developed, highly conscious graphic designer turns into a brand designer. It is a niche within the design field and within the graphic design field. But when I think of brand designers, it's somebody who creates something from nothing. We are magicians, guys. That's all you need to know. We are just big magicians. But really, a graphic designer can be someone who just creates any kind of graphic for you. Somebody who can just tweak photo, somebody who can create a certain pattern for you, somebody who could absolutely have the capacity to make a logo for you, but really and truly a brand designer is a strategist, and I don't have a better word for it, but an esthetician, somebody who digs deep into what it is that you do and actually makes you look really good. So I like to think of brand designers as people who make you look and feel as good as your products and services are. I think in some way, shape, or form, it's actually on my website. Like you're already really, really good at what you're doing, and that's a certain service or product or some sort of thing that you're selling, and I go through your business with you to make sure that we highlight the exact products or services, that we make it look exactly as it should, as competitive or as confident as it needs to look. So brand designer is a bit of an evolved designer, which I think oftentimes in design school they'll tell you, oh, just kind of learn all the skills. You can be a motion designer, you can be this or that. At the core, I want to work with companies, their business identities, kind of dig into that as a strategist, and then as a designer bring that knowledge and strategy to life to make it look good.
Wow.
Does that sound like a
Yeah, I love how you clarified that it's not just about the design. There's a huge strategy element that is vital to the process, and without that strategy, then how can you have that coherence or consistency throughout an entire person's company, their entire brand? So making everything look cohesive, making everything feel like, oh, this makes sense. It's aligned to the products and services that I'm offering, and it's a reflection of the person who owns the company, I'm assuming as well,
Yes,
yes?
absolutely. Absolutely. Oftentimes, I think people look for designers because they just want a logo done. And then when they actually get to work with me at the end, it becomes this beautiful collaboration of, oh, I didn't know you did all of those things. So actually, the clients don't even know what they're looking for when they're looking for a designer. And we can get into this a little bit more later too, but the branding, the terminology branding is now so commonplace. Everybody has a brand. You have your personal brand, you're a brand influencer. Just branding is thrown around so much where people just think, oh, it's just the logo, it's just the outer appearance. So I think we're kind of doing a disservice to the process and a lot of the brand designers work where we try to say, well, actually, I'm not just going to design your logo, and let's back up for a second and sit down and talk about what your intentions are, what your goals are before we get to anything else. And sometimes that's disheartening because people just want to see a cool, pretty logo made for them, as fast as possible. But I
Yeah.
always have to ask them to just really like stop everything and go backwards for a little bit with me. It's just not a sexy part of the process per se, or that visual thing that people assume immediately, I should say. It's very sexy to know who you are and be exactly in that space of confidence and knowing how you're going forward, but it's not sexy when you're expecting visuals immediately.
Yeah, and I think that that's such a really realistic thing to just let's put this frame of reference here. You cannot have a successful brand without doing that back end work, without doing those excavations and figuring out what is it that I'm really here to offer, what's the mission, what's the
Mm-hmm.
vision,
Yes.
and
And people think it's the same thing, guys. It's not the same
it's
thing.
not the same. Yeah, and we're gonna dive into that obviously just a little bit later in this episode, but I think you've set this up really well for me to just dive in here and ask you, why do people decide to hire a brand designer? What is that typical motivation for somebody choosing to hire a brand designer?
So oftentimes it is feedback, slowly burning feedback that gets a client to really work with me if they have an established business. So thankfully, because the word branding is so commonplace now, people starting a business have that on a checklist, like get a designer, start to work with somebody to have a brand put together for you. So that's helpful for me because when they come from the very beginning stages, they either went through some sort of training or program or read some sort of book or have worked with some sort of coach where there's a really good chance that they will either have at least a half-assed mission statement, or maybe they are conflating vision and mission statement, but they have some of those strategy pieces because they're just brand new. They really don't know what they are doing. And I think oftentimes what happens is we just start running with our companies and ideas and businesses, and we don't quite clean up that stuff. And then years down the road, this is really kind of where I'm hitting most of my clients. There's some sort of feedback from clients or stagnant sales, or they're just not standing out from the crowd enough where all of a sudden it becomes like a shit, I need a rebrand. So
Mm.
not only their graphics weren't really matching the initial intent, which in 2 years time, if you're a brand new business, there's probably a lot of shifts. That's okay, but oftentimes there really wasn't even a foundation to begin with,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
2 years down the road, they just kind of ran on something, a crazy idea, and then really like it just fell out from underneath them. So if you're a new business, there's that credibility piece that helps you establish credibility if you start working with a brand designer. If you're an established business, oftentimes it's attracting new clients or staying relevant or differentiating yourself in the market. That kind of becomes the motivation. And then very often I work with the people in the service business or service industry, coaches, consultants, who just absolutely have to have a personal brand. It's critical for them because they have to gain trust. It's not a larger brick and mortar company where you go into the store and the store is organized a certain way, or there's products that you can ship and kind of see. But when it's a service-based business, you not only have to stand out, but you just really have to look legit. Otherwise, nobody will believe, even if you're the most brilliant esthetician or yoga teacher. Like, if you're not part of some sort of larger organization, I may think, I don't even know how you do what you do, or if I can trust you. Your website looks like crap. It looks like you're not investing into your website. How do I know that you're going to invest in the service or the care of me, right? So it's kind of shitty to say that, but it does matter what you look like in that sense. And I will say, if it's just consistent, you're already halfway there. But oftentimes it's some sort of out of alignment, inconsistency, running out of clients, running out of sales, where people realize, okay, I need to find somebody who really knows what they're doing.
I love that you brought up that people in the service industry really have more of a personal brand that they're creating. And I see this all the time. I'm a coach. I see this all the time in the coaching world. I mean, people get outside of coaching school and they're just kind of running and trying to figure out what their niche is, but and it does take some time to figure that out, and so it's okay to take that time necessary in figuring out what do you enjoy working with people on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see coaches 2, 3, 4, 10 years into their company, and you're right, there's no solid foundation. There is no personal brand. There is nothing that really, okay, you click on their website and maybe they have some really cute pictures of themselves, but what is it that they offer? We have no idea. And so having somebody, even as a sounding board, to help bring out some of those juicy, okay, what is it that you're really here to do? What is it that you're really here to offer? Oh my gosh, that is invaluable. And I'm curious, what are some of those best possible outcomes that a business owner, entrepreneur like that could experience via getting a brand designer who actually understands them and actually has that nuanced ability to go down the strategy rabbit hole with them?
I would say clarity and then consistency. There, it is part of my constitution, and maybe maybe in another episode we'll talk about my Akashic records and my gifts. I am really, really, really good at clearing the clutter. And I think even in my personal life, I'm very much a minimalist. I have an extremely organized closet. I think we've talked about a couple of these things in previous episodes, but the thing that brands need the most is the foundation. There was some sort of business program I was a part of in Cincinnati. It was so weird. I just wanted this kind of strategy advice. This was kind of the first time I embarked on this, where I thought, well, I don't really have a clear mission and vision statement as paper, Réka. What am I doing? And went to this group, and this guy was trying to explain stuff, and some of it made sense, some of it didn't really make sense. But I remember one thing he said, that was, if someone stops you on the street and you cannot clearly articulate what you do in a quick sentence, it's a huge problem for your business, because you need to be in your business offering the same thing over and over again enough, knowing exactly who you're serving, where that, even if that sentence, let's say, changes just a little bit, right? The core elements of who you're serving, what it is that you're doing, what is the outcome, has to, basically your elevator pitch. It has to come automatically. It has to be this like quick, immediate reaction, where it is so solid in your core, who you are, that every single business decision can be rooted from that. And shout out here to Ignite. I'll pull them up as an example. I remember when we started, we talked about really, really specifically of what kind of class types they are going to offer. And I don't even think the names changed, and they've been in business for over a decade now. But one of the things that when they opened in their second location, one of the things that people kept reaching out for, they had more of a main road store front, and more people came in, right? So there was more exposure, and they said, oh, we want chair yoga, we want kids yoga, we want pregnancy, prenatal yoga, all of these different things. And the answer was always no. And basically, potentially, in some way, they always turned clients away and said, that's just not what we offer. Here are some of our friends. That's not what we do, or that's not what we offer. Sorry. But it was so clear that being rooted in their foundation, knowing exactly what they are offering to whom, kept that business rolling, which we know from your statistics from the previous episode. It's a really big deal to make it to 10 years, where it's just like, this is what we offer, this is who we are. And that gives you such clarity to not get tangled up in like extra paperwork, legality, like all sorts of extra variables get added, where it's like, that's not what you do. You're this empowering, we empower power for living. That's even on their website. Like, that's their core thing that they always talk about. And that sort of clarity can only come from hours and hours of conversation. That is kind of like, well, do we want to do this? Do we like doing this? Is this interesting? Is this good? Is this valuable? Is this sellable? Right? And so clarity is super, super important. And then that creates consistency, where you can just recreate the same message over and over again. And I always like to tell my clients, when you start getting really tired of your new logo, 6 to 8 months down the road, that is when people start recognizing your logo. Like, you think people see it all the time and it's so boring. Nobody sees it. We get exposed to hundreds of brands and different visual elements a day in that kind of like branding sphere, from your toothpaste to your hair styling products to your, car logo, whatever that you encounter every day. Grocery store, not even mentioning, like trying to shop without being bombarded by those visuals. But if you think about that, for your business, especially if it is not a storefront and a brick and mortar, nobody sees it. And even on social media, depending on algorithms, how it gets buried, nobody sees it. So if you know who you are and you keep repeating the same exact message, those, I would say, are the most important outcomes that someone can have working with a good designer.
So the goal is eventual familiarity.
Absolutely. Brand recognition, brand trust, brand loyalty, and it can all just build from that. But people think it just comes from the visual. If I just throw the visual everywhere all the time in different ways, people will get that. But it's being able to have the conversation over and over again, who you are, because then someone will say, oh, I love this coach because you know what, she does this. They will start advertising for you in a way that you don't even see, because they so clearly can articulate what you do, versus, well, just here's their website, look them up. I like them, they're a good person, or, whatever. It's like, no, that Réka, she's a brand designer. Go talk to her.
Yeah. Wow. And that, I feel like, really can give some insight to listeners who are brand new business owners, or maybe they haven't been branded yet. Maybe they don't have a business yet, but they have a dream, they have an idea of something that they're wanting to create. And I think that is such a good thing to have in the back of your mind of, we can't just start by throwing down a logo or creating some kind of thing on Canva and hoping for the best.
Friend.
And I mean, so really, going into Canva and just that fast food logo creation, why is creating a brand not as easy or as simple as just whipping out something on Canva and slapping it on your business and calling it a brand?
So first and foremost, I'm glad Canva exists, because they have templates and certain things that, if you're not fucking with it too much, there's actually a good chance that the intended design doesn't get too screwed up, and you're going to produce something better than you would on your own in PowerPoint or Word. If designing through Canva is your only option, at least make sure you have some sort of strategy in place. so you can be consistent. But slapping that logo onto something without the necessary background information, it's going to fall apart because it is in your best interest to stay as clear and as cohesive and as consistent with your brand as humanly possible. If you're the only person designing between 2 and 3 in the morning, quickly just putting things together, there's going to be no strategy behind why you're choosing a certain graphic or certain typeface or certain color. And when you just quickly make that, the end result eventually is going to fall apart. So your logo will look a little bit different here. Maybe you didn't export something correctly and it will be pixelated. When I see something pixelated, my God, like, don't do that. We have really beautiful machines now that can do high-end, high-quality work, right? So it's immediately just communicates cheap.
So I think that what I see often is people go immediately to Canva because in the short term it seems easy and simple, but then it ends up causing problems for them down the line when they're maybe 2 or 3 years into their business and oh, I'm really not branded. Oh, I don't really have a mark that has that foundation. And then they're like scrambling to figure out their niche or what exactly it is that they're offering because they're not clear. So, in a way, it seems like Canva is kind of this quick, easy solution, but in the long term, it makes things more complicated. Would you say that that's true?
I would agree with that. I think oftentimes when non-designers design, and bless all of your hearts, I see you because I do things in my business that I have absolutely no business doing. So I get it. But what ends up happening is you don't notice things that designers would notice. So let's say a font defaults when you export something and it just all of a sudden is Verdana or, some god awful like basic typeface is not exporting properly. If something is low resolution, if something gets cropped off that you didn't notice, if there's a call to action missing, when you're rushing through it yourself, especially in a software, but you're probably not super familiar with, or you're just not using on a regular basis, there are going to be things that you're not going to catch as quickly. So even though if Canva has good templates, it's just eventually becoming consistent because next time you're going to click on this other version, this other thing that looks shinier or cooler, or now you're switching. So one day you're posting with some flowers in the background, the next day you're posting with some textures in the background. All of a sudden it's like, are you this person? Are you that person? And your clients will start to wonder, your audience will start to wonder, like, what is the consistency here? Was this just made for likes and clicks, or is this really information we need? And I'm not saying everything has to be black and white and one typeface, but there is something to be said about hiring someone who has the eye for that and can just keep you consistent. I keep coming back to this consistency, but that builds trust. That means that you have cared to create that post, or you have cared to curate that library or edit the image in a certain way because it looks exactly the same every single time.
So there's some kind of like intuitive subliminal things that consumers are catching whenever they're looking at people's work, their website, their socials, or even if you go to a restaurant and you look at their menu. I
Absolutely.
mean, to see that consistency. And so it sounds like what you're saying is that oftentimes whenever you are trying to do this design work on your own and you are not a designer, then there are really vital and necessary elements that end up being missed because it's not your wheelhouse, first of all.
Yeah.
But it's not just the strategy end, but also it can be the visual end as well, where it's like, okay, it looks like there were 5 different people taking your photos for you. On your website, you have these typefaces that are just inconsistent and it makes it look sloppy. And then we start to assume, oh, well, if this looks sloppy, then I'm going to, as a consumer, assume that your work is also sloppy, or that you're not a consistent person, or that, are you really going to be able to show up and do this work for me?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're making an investment, if we're laying down our credit cards for a service or for a product, maybe it's the logo or
Mm-hmm.
website design, then we want to make sure as consumers that we're putting our money down in a way that's actually going to benefit our businesses, right?
Absolutely. Just think about, if you're a Mac user, think about, I mean, I no longer do this, but people keeping their packaging of the laptop. What are you gonna do?
I do that.
You're never gonna put that laptop back in there. You're gonna buy a sleeve for it and you're gonna carry it in your backpack. You will never ever use that box again. Yet I guarantee you that if you're a Mac user, 70% of us listening have the box on a shelf somewhere.
I absolutely have the box for mine.
It's beautiful. And then next time, the next computer you buy, the iPhone you buy, or whatever, you expect that kind of level of service, that kind of packaging. It's a thing that someone thought about. How are you going to experience this? And now that you have invested in this, next time you invest this kind of money again, or for a similar product, or for an iPad, or what have you, you know that you're going to get that kind of quality of service or that kind of quality of product.
As you're talking, I feel like my body is relaxing. Like, to be able to just like know exactly what to expect when you make a purchase, especially when it's a high ticket
Yes.
thing. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm dropping thousands of dollars on this. I want to know that I am safe to hand over this money for this thing or this service. So whenever I was doing hair, whenever I was a cosmetologist, women pay big bucks to get their hair done. But they want to know that whenever they walk out of the salon after they're done with you, that they're going to look and feel like $1,000,000. Not, oh, I just gave you all of this money and now I feel like I have to wear a hat for the next year and a half, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really across industries that this is so important. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, there needs to be that level of trust in the product and the service. And we often get that from the brand itself.
Absolutely. And that it's a process too, I don't think we've talked about this enough, but it takes time. It takes a lot of conversations. You have to believe that I'm capable of designing this, even if you've seen my website and seen my work. But like you said, the word trust, it's going to take time, and for that to unfold, it's a really intimate process. It's a really intimate process for me to say it's going to cost this much money, and I'm going to ask you to trust me and stay put and let this unfold. And we are not set up as a society to handle that. We are not willing to have all of these long form conversations. And I might add, oftentimes, some businesses don't necessarily love to have the conversation with me about why they are stuck. So when they come to me, they're often have already been through some sort of rebrand process, try to do it themselves, DIY'd. Most of them have DIY'd themselves. Up to, a couple of years, you can probably get away with some stuff because you're cute, you're just starting out. But they come to me, and it just depends how open they are for the process. They don't always see the value in going deep, but when you do, it becomes a much juicier process and just a better outcome, because you've bared your soul. You've really come to this place to say, I know this is bad, and I made this, or a friend made this, or I paid a bunch of money for it, but it's not working. The clients are not coming through the door, or I have to re-explain myself over and over again, or whatever the scenario is. And that's a really painful thing to start with, to say,
Brand
like,
shame.
yes,
Brand
yes,
shame.
yes. And even if your logo sucks, and people will be kind of cute about it, like, I know it sucks, but I know it's really hard to say that because it's on your
Yeah.
storefront or it's on your documents or it's on your website. And every single day until I help you, it's kind of a thing that you're ashamed of. So you want it done quick or you want it fixed quick or you would rather hop into Canva and like slap something new on it. But it's like then it really didn't come from that true reevaluation of what you're doing. And I'll bring up another friend who is in the consulting coaching field. And just recently, I mean, I was pushing her and pushing her to just drop some of her service offerings. And now watching her, I actually need to tell her this, watching her post on social media where she's like, I offer this. If you don't want to do that, this is another path for you. And it's so nice. Every time she posts, I'm like, I don't even think she knows truly how much lighter her posts sound because she has clarity behind what the fuck she's offering. And
Yeah.
those were offers that already exist. Like I didn't tell her anything new that she didn't know. I asked her to tweak and I asked her to just kind of go back and clarify some things. And now it's like, yeah, I fall into this category, I'm going to go this way. I don't fall into that category, I'm going to go that way. Like it's so nice because you're immediately getting people through the door without over explaining yourself. It's clarity for the people who want to consume your product and want to give you your money or want to give you their money.
And it makes it so much more enjoyable, I'm sure, as the business owner to have that clarity where you're meeting somebody. And I mean, the first question we ask each other as adults is, what do you do? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be asked that question and feel that, oh, I gotta say something and not have the clarity behind it, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're making a post on social media and there's that lack of clarity. That makes the process so unenjoyable of
Mm-hmm.
doing your marketing, doing your sacred work. And I think it also makes it so much more enjoyable for the consumer, where the consumer doesn't want to have to sift through your words and all of these mixed messages. They don't want to have to read between the lines to try to figure out, are you the practitioner for me? Are you the service provider for me? Are you the brand designer for me? And so I think that that is really such a powerful thing, to have that clarity element
Mm-hmm.
behind everything that you do, behind all of the words that you're speaking, behind all of the images that you're putting out there to the world.
Yeah, you're allowing your clients to self-select in a way. There's a lot of clarity that
Mm.
comes from. I'm not saying that should be your singular sales strategy, but it can just become so much easier for you to complete a sale because it's like,
Yes.
yep, that's my aligned person. That's exact. They already know. They have self-selected. They are coming through the door because what they read made sense to them and spoke to them and. So they're like,
Yes.
take my money.
Yes, and that's what we want, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want clients to self-select or
Mm-hmm.
deselect when they also read that thing that's super clear and they're like, "Oh, I don't vibe with this. This isn't
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Okay, well, that's not a congruent client, so I want them to fall
Mm-hmm.
off as well." So we want that branding and design to be that self-selective and deselective process for our clients or potential prospects
Mm-hmm.
to come in,
I've
right?
done so much design for people who are not congruent. Oh my God. I'm like, that's just, let
Yeah.
me just hustle for this like $200 or $500 or just like, yes, I can do it. Totally cool. And then just, I wasn't proud of the end result. It didn't end up in my portfolio. They weren't happy. I wasn't happy. They never came back for another thing, right? It was just like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and it makes your work not so fun
Yeah.
whenever you are, you're putting a message out there, you're attracting in a client that's not ideal, and then you have to go through with working with them, and then the process of that is just like, oh, and I've done the same thing in my coaching business where I've taken on a client because, well, I wouldn't mind having this much money from this client, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then every single call that I have to hop on with this person, I'm like, oh my God, I have to talk
Mm-hmm.
to this person. Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
like pulling teeth, you
Yeah.
know? So, and I think that's literally every industry as well, especially the service industry, where you're working in close proximity or in an intimate nature
Yeah.
with another human being. So
Yeah.
I love that we are talking about this. I think that is such an important thing. Because also whenever we're first starting out in business, typically it's like we feel a financial pressure to just take the money and do the fucking
Yes.
job, right? And I think what this conversation is kind of alluding to is that you're going to go further, faster, and make more money, have more financial abundance available to you if you weed out those incongruent people right out the gate. We want to have that clarity so that you're not tainting your sacred work, so that you're not having to boss harder
Yeah.
um just to have, you know, a paycheck. It's like you will actually make more money if your brand is clear, if your elevator pitch has that clarity behind it and
Hmm.
really instills that trust in the consumer.
It's just really hard to see that up front. So I super get that.
It's so hard.
Like how do I trust that that's gonna come my way, right? Like just even not even talking like a branding perspective, but from that spiritual kind of like everything works out this way when it's congruent, right? Like I almost think if I could go back, I would tell myself to write down every client I enjoyed working with and did not enjoy working with and just have an Excel spreadsheet. And I bet in 6 months' time I would have known that I love working with female entrepreneurs. I love working with the wellness brands, people in the beauty, health, wellness, fitness, that kind of thing. Because so many times it's like, oh my God, this is like when you said pulling teeth, I could totally feel it. Just, they're not my people. And they didn't like it and I didn't like it. It's just like we signed a contract, so we were doing this thing, but it was fucking painful.
Yeah. And guys listening, take out your freaking notes and write this shit down. She is dropping some pearls, okay? The writing down what clients you love and what clients you didn't love. Even if it's not that you didn't, maybe you didn't even hate working with them, but you didn't love working with them. And then you're going to find those
Oh, yeah.
consistencies on both ends of, oh, this is what works, this is what I love, even this is where I found these clients.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, this is what I don't love. This is what I'm not willing to tolerate. This is who I don't want to work with. You know,
Your niche will,
literally.
yeah, your
Oh
niche will
my
appear
gosh.
so much faster.
So much faster. And I mean, this information, you can pay somebody thousands of dollars for them to tell you just that little tidbit of information. So write that shit down, guys. It's so
You're
important.
welcome.
You're welcome.
I can share my Venmo if you can send me money for my wisdom.
Absolutely, yeah. And this kind of wraps into your gift of wisdom.
Hmm.
This is the type of clutter that we need to clear out as entrepreneurs. And it is clutter that we don't even often recognize as being clutter because sometimes it's more mental.
Oh, absolutely. And even if you go to business school, I didn't go to school for business, so I don't quite know um, right this second what is being taught in an entrepreneurship track. But even then, I think there's probably not enough conversation about being more. It's probably a lot of it bossing really hard and going through the motions of like these checklists of how you start businesses where you end up with a lot of information from other people and you didn't actually feel into those yourself. Like, does this really make sense for my business? Like, okay, just because somebody gave you this 12-step checklist to, start your business, um, is that going to work for you in the long run? Is that going to make sense for you? When are you going to get quiet and really work on your business? Like, okay, I'm not repeating my mission and vision statement every single day, but that kind of clarity now, and now I've been in the business for over 15 years, so I really know who I like to talk to and what clients work well. But even now, like if I have a month that I'm not making as much money as I want to, I will consider saying yes to something and then I have to backtrack, like, hold up. Is this really going to make sense for me in the long run? But that
Mm-hmm.
space doesn't exist when you're starting out. That at the beginning, you're following the formulas. You're copying everybody else. You're
Yes.
trying to do the good thing by making sure that you file for your EIN number and do, all of your proper business setups. That's like, okay, that's necessary, but then in that, don't get lost, right? Like pay attention to yourself and pay attention to your business. And a lot of it is not rocket science. Anybody can write a mission statement, but it takes time to write a mission statement.
Yeah.
And go back to your mission statement and reevaluate a word and, throw it into ChatGPT or ask somebody if that word really describes you as well as you think it describes you. Because oftentimes I think that's my most favorite part about a brand. And I have had this happen a couple of times where clients asked me to do something. I did that, and then I usually do 2 options. And 3 is just too many, and then people will want to take something from the first and the third, and then I like to call it Franken design it. And it's a term from my agents at Real Art. We always called it Franken designing, where it's like, well, I like this and I like that. It's like, well, those are totally different concepts. We don't want to blend those. No. So I give 2 options. You get this or you get that. And oftentimes they have a very specific vision. And if I disagree with that, I'll design the logo that they want, and then I'll design what I think they need. And it has happened many times where I'm like, I know that this is how you see yourself right now, but you are already in a stuck pattern. Trust me that actually this is currently maybe good for the next 3 months, right? It's maybe like a tiny bit of a facelift. It's like a tiny bit of Botox for you, but that's not what you need in the long run, right? So it's kind of nice when people trust you with that, but it just takes time.
It sounds like you're really trying to create something that lasts, like a brand
Yes.
that can withstand the test of time, and also it can float on the tides with you as you ebb and flow, as you grow, as you evolve in your business. Something that can evolve with you, basically.
Yeah. My most favorite brands, and if you're in Dayton, Ohio, there's a handful of them that still have the same signage and the same design that we did like close to a decade ago now. And it's just so fun where it's like we ran back and forth. We wanted to pour our hairs out, and we wanted to like murder each other possibly at certain points, because it was like, what are we doing, and why does this tiny little detail matter, and why, and is this the right thing, and do we put this slant here or there, is this 20 degrees or 15 degrees? And some clients don't get that involved. Some clients love when I share that kind of detail with them. They get excited about the nuances like that, and then they feel extremely proud of their brand, which is really kind of one of my favorite outcomes when people work with me. It's like I'm just so pumped that this is the logo.
Yeah.
And I never ever ask for credit. I don't ask people to like, you need to put on the website that I designed your logo or anything. I just know that when there's a new logo and it was done well and you enjoy it, you're gonna say, oh my God, you gotta go talk to Réka. Like that's, I'm sure some people have different strategies and think about this differently or bake that into contracts. I'm like, I just think we both know when it's good, it will abundantly come back to be multiple fold.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that was a huge thing when I did hair as well. I mean, my clients were walking billboards for my work, and I didn't have to say, oh, well, you need to go tell everybody that I do your hair. No, people would come up to my clients while they were out in the wild and say, oh my God, I love your hair. Who did that? And that was a huge way that I built my clientele. It was stellar work that was being put out into the world. And so whenever your work has that level of integrity and that consistently, like it's consistently good,
right,
it just makes it so much easier for you to attract in those ideal prospects.
So now imagine the world where you have this amazing service, an amazing product, and everything external about it is such shit.
Your work can be brilliant.
Yeah.
But we have to also let other people know that we're brilliant. We can't just, well, I'm just the most amazing practitioner at whatever it is that I do, so people should just be coming in hordes. We all wish that that's how it happens. That's not
Build it and
how
they'll
it
come.
goes.
We like to joke about this between Grace and I. Build it that they will come. No, build it, tell them, and then they'll come. But in the meantime, make it look good too.
So I think that really we've covered so many challenges that end up surfacing whenever people are first starting out in business, trying to create their brand, likely doing a lot of the DIY projects out the ass, trying to
Yes.
get their shit done enough
Mm-hmm.
so that they can start making some money. However, I would love to know what happens whenever people start hitting these roadblocks because the foundation is not stable, the brand is not clear, or the message is not congruent. Is this where people give up? Where do people in that process end up finding you?
People find me when they have given up. People find
lost
me.
all hope.
They lost all hope. People sometimes find me accidentally. It kind of depends if they're a new business or a business that has already existed, but they have DIY'd themselves to the max. And oftentimes when they find me, they actually know. They're like, now I've maxed out the capacity of what I could, or like my skills, or now I'm just trying to grow, and basically there's no time for me to sit down with Canva. So maybe what they did actually wasn't even that bad, and they had a semi eye, some sort of eye for design, and it was okay. So people find me in that position. People find me where their brand has gotten feedback that it's just not good, and maybe it's in a form, not that, oh, your logo sucks, but something like they'll come into the space and think, oh, that's not what I thought your thing was, and this is so much more pleasant and surprising. Like they start to realize that there are misalignments or disconnects in their audience for them to be like, okay, what is not happening? Because when they come in, they are really happy, right? They enjoy the service or the massage or the yoga class or the whatever, or the product. Why is that happening? I don't know enough about social media to be totally honest, but I think there's some trends and certain things and ways to post that if you're not doing consistently, you can start seeing how your brand is falling apart. And while maybe it's just Instagram that month, not necessarily promoting your posts, it can come from there. And then it's just this kind of, I think when people come to me, they feel like they have been, well, firstly, they feel extremely frustrated and feel like they just can no longer solve this themselves. But there's this level of reinventing the wheel that I find with them. And they know what they want to put out, and they kind of see the example of what it could look like, let's say even with like a Canva template. But if you were to put too many words into the little headline copy that was supposed to be 5 words, you're just like, okay, well, then I'm going to go and do this new template because I see that that has more copy on it. So I'm going to try to put that in there. But basically, you're just, instead of going backwards and saying, I need headline copy and then body copy and then a call to action and an image with it or what have you, and then a logo in the top, it's just reinventing the wheel, trying to do the same post or the same kind of message over and over again. Or it's really that growth point where they realize, like, I cannot sit down and write every single email because it takes me 2 hours to write these emails and put in the right marketing links and the products that I'm selling. And, you send out a couple of emails with the wrong links. And, you've gotten those emails where it's like, oops, we sent the wrong link. I genuinely don't ever fault anybody. It's like, I try to find the link. And then if it's really something I can't find, I'll go back to the person if I really need that. But that happens. I'm in technology anymore, whatever. But it's just those consistent kind of mistakes and frustrations and being in this like loop where you feel like you can't get out, that I think when people find me, they're like, okay, not only you can break me out of this cycle, really be like a consultant slash, employee for the brand for a while, like really plug into my ecosystem. I also clear so much clutter for them, which is not always quite evident up front, but it's like, It's like, that's not how we're doing that. That's the old way. We're throwing that away. These are old stickers we're never gonna use again. This is a T-shirt. Donate it or get rid of it. That's the old logo. We not like stuff where they just need permission to start anew. And I think that's it's kind of a luxury to give yourself when you're running a business, when you're like need a pause or need to take that vacation. So it's I'm giving them this permission to start anew, to clear stuff out, to like rethink how some of that stuff is. And oftentimes while their brand is still running or operating on that old look or the old pillars, it's the loop that they're in, the cycle they're in, the frustration, the reinventing the wheel, and then just it eventually shows in their sales, stagnant sales or not enough new clients, or just the competition kind of, they're not standing out from the competition enough where they just know that someone's kind of lapping them because they look better or sound better or have more consistency in posting or what have you.
So it's really kind of interesting how you're talking about these loopholes, and I think that even if it's a relatively new business, maybe 2 or 3 years old, there is always loopholes or patterns of operation in that business, even mindsets around how you should be operating that business that keep you at that level of financial abundance.
Yes.
Or attracting in the same types of clients. And so I love that you are giving people this permission slip of, you know what, you are evolving. That's okay. Your brand can evolve with you, but in order to do so, we need to clear some of this clutter to allow for your expansion, to allow for your becoming, to give you space for whatever that is to be birthed, instead of, well, let's hold on to this old thing because there's some kind of sentimental value, or because a coach that I had 5 years ago told me that this was the proper way for me to do business. Or sometimes we have self-imposed ideas too.
Absolutely.
From maybe we saw an quote-unquote expert on the internet say, this is how to go viral, or whatever it is, right? And a lot of times, and we're going to be talking about this in the next episode, a lot of times it's just not in alignment to the person that owns the business in the first place. So it's like we have to allow for the old to fall away, for the new version to be birthed.
Absolutely.
I love that. Love that. And I think that that's something that we need to also consistently remind ourselves of as business owners, because our businesses are kind of our babies.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. But our baby's going to grow up and they'll need a different outfit.
Yeah.
And they're going to start talking and they're going to make friends. And
yeah. And it's got to evolve. And sometimes we got to let go a little bit of those preconceived ideas of what maybe we thought our business was going to be. Maybe we just have evolved in a way where it's like that cannot exist simultaneously with what is being asked to be created right now.
Yeah.
So that is a good reminder for all of us. No matter if you're 2 years deep in your business or if you're 20 years deep in your business, because these loops can happen at any stage. Any stage. And in fact, we're always operating from those patterned loops.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to have an up level in your business, if you want to have an evolution in your brand
instead of loop,
it's a spiral instead of a loop. Wow. Yeah.
That's good. That is a good reminder for me too, because I definitely get stuck in patterns for sure.
Oh yeah, we all do. We all do. So basically, we've talked about all of these problems that we have all experienced in business. I mean, myself included, for sure. I'm curious about what is that deeper issue that maybe people are not even aware of. They know that they're experiencing the burnout with trying to do everything themselves. They've kind of given up and lost hope. They know that maybe their sales could be better, or they know that they're not attracting in those ideal clients, and so it can feel really frustrating. Um, and so they end up finding you. But what is the deepest issue here? What is all encompassing in all of these symptoms? Is it just that their brand is not a true mirror of them, is not a true mirror of what they're offering? Is there some kind of like, these are the top two or three core issues?
Money would always be a really good indicator. You're just not making the money that you need to make, or you're just running out of it faster towards the middle of the month versus the end of the month. But a deep-rooted issue, which is, it just sounds so silly if I say it out loud like this, but it's clarity on what your business is doing. And while we joke that our businesses are babies and they are growing with us, I almost feel like it should be a requirement as a business owner to resubmit who you are and what you are on a yearly basis. Like, is this still where I'm staying? Is this where I'm headed? Have you sold a part of your business? Did you acquire a new business partner, or hired so much staff now that you actually have to have somebody managing the staff, where you're just in your business differently? So clarity, lack of clarity is a huge issue. And then, so that's an internal thing. The external thing is, so much is coming at us every single day. If I open Instagram, I follow a handful of designers. I can only have like either my favorite people or people I've heard talks from or went to conferences with or have worked with in some sort of capacity. I follow them. Beyond that, I gotta shut it out, because the first thing I see is, how are they marketing themselves? What are they saying? What is some of their stuff? And that comparison syndrome, that kind of lack mindset, I don't have this, I'm not doing it this way, immediately derails. Like, it's just so toxic for me to open social media and find people who are in the same field, wonder what they're making, how are they making more money than me, how are they successful, what are they doing, do I need to copy that? So I think I often find this with business owners, and I have branded a lovely human once who said, this is kind of the thing I want to look like. And I said, that's this other person's look. We didn't copy the other person's look, but it's like we are going a direction that is someone's aesthetic. And 2 years later, she came back and we completely rebranded and went absolutely 180-degree, completely opposite. And I told her, I said, this is the wrong solution for you. But she was stuck in that comparison syndrome, in that deep fear of standing out on their own. I think so much of, and it goes back to clarity. When you're not clear in who you are, it's really hard for you to stand in that truth and be really honest with yourself that, you know what, I just really like extremely colorful, bubbly design. And it doesn't matter what product or service or whatever I'm going to sell. When you meet me in person and when you talk to me and when you have whatever with me, that's kind of part of who I am. So if everybody in your field, let's say this is a good example for coaches, or even you who likes a lot of color and fun in your life and in your design, I would say the coaching business generally is a really toned down, even with like femme entrepreneurs who are a little bit more edgy. Maybe it's just that their tattoos are showing, but there's still kind of either a blouse or like a high heel or something in there where it's like, where's the coach that's super serious, that's bare feet, Or there's just not enough standing up for ourselves and individuality being appreciated and anchored into that, aligned that internally so strongly that there's no wind that's going to blow you over. And I say this really easily here, about other people. I feel that I go online or I compare myself. I think about this like, oh, I'm not doing it that way. I'm not making reels on my social media. Then, what am I doing? Like I'm missing out on the clients, on the sales or whatever. But really rooted deep down in my essence, like I I like going on social media. I'll have conversations on social media. I'll post or comment rather, not post. I am not for social media. Like I'm not going to post. I'm not going to do the thing. I'm not going to present my work. And I was just reading an article about this that was really interesting, that designers especially, it became this performative thing. The social media stuff became this performative thing of like, show us your logo process, show us this. Nothing in that is sacred and internal and like exclusive to me. So I cannot really bloom from this beautifully tended soil because I'm constantly just like borrowing and looking around and checking what everybody else is doing versus tending to my own little garden, right? And it's so clear that a brand, it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your logo is blue or green or whatever. I can give you certain suggestions. We can talk about certain things. We can look at your competitors. And it's not always that you have to be the extreme opposite what other people are doing, but that confidence and that kind of rooted in yourself and aligned with exactly where you're trying to go, and continuously re-asking, because I think the other thing is to, okay, like we've talked about this, my values, core values are beauty and freedom. It hasn't changed. I ask myself if it still makes sense. And I'm not saying it's an official strategic meeting with me, myself, and I sit down and discuss this deeply, but I think about it. It's like, does this really resonate still? Yeah, it's still true. Can I do better at this? Am I kind of falling away from it? Is it because it's not true anymore? Is it because I'm just maybe misaligned on my path, but the path was correct? We're not having these conversations with ourselves or with our businesses or business partners on a regular basis to be truly aware of it. So it will lead to all of those inconsistencies. It will lead to the confused audience. It will lead to the stagnant sales, the what have you. But really, I think at the core, it's misalignment or just lack of clarity.
Yeah, and I can totally see how that clarity is really the thread that runs through and supports and holds together the entire brand, the entire vision for what is being created, what is being birthed, what is being offered. So thank you for that. I feel like
You're
you
welcome.
have really taken us through so many nuanced pockets here of what is the importance of having the design, having the clarity, having the aligned. Everything needs to be in alignment, basically. That's what you're saying. Everything
Yeah.
needs to be in alignment and balancing on top of the foundation of what is that core? What is
Right.
your why? Like, how can we create more clarity? And without that, you have no foundation and you have no brand.
Right.
If we're being really honest, you
Yeah.
have no brand.
Right.
So that is absolutely huge. Thank you so much for sharing. Also, you've dropped so many little diamonds and tidbits of wisdom for everybody. This information is not just floating around everywhere. It is not just super available. So thank you so much for keeping it real. Thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for so freely sharing not only from your level of expertise, but also so vulnerably and saying, you know what, I have this thing of comparison too. I
Oh, yeah.
have my humanness. I'm in this industry, and if I see other people posting online, and then it forces you to also get onto the bandwagon of comparison or performative work. And I think that takes away from the artistry of it. Like, how can you
Absolutely.
truly, because you are an artist as a designer, like you are an artist, and art is something that's so deeply emotional and organic that to be performative in it kind of can take away some of those really powerful elements that can make a brand the brand.
Absolutely.
So, for all of our listeners looking to find a designer, how do people know who to hire? I mean, how do they know that the designer that they're looking for is actually going to be a good fit? Who do they need to avoid?
I would say whomever you hire, have a conversation and a consultation and whatever with them first. It is very mainstream and accepted that if you work with a proper designer, they'll have a conversation with you first, and then you're going to go into quoting and actually figuring out the scope of the project and what you're really doing. So you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the designer if you just say, hey, I know you design logos, like how much? Because they're not going to be able to tell you their processes or even just get a vibe check. Do they want to design the logo for you, right? And it has happened to me where it's like, this is what I want to create, and it's like a half created logo. It's like, so am I tweaking this? Am I giving you a new option? Is this, did somebody draw this for you? That, am I evolving this? Like there's just conversations that need to happen. So the best way to find a designer is to, if you know their name and information, go and see what you think about them online, what is present.
Like check out their portfolio.
Check out their portfolio for sure. A good designer will have at least a couple of examples of work and know that that's going to be the favorite type of work. So if your work is not, or what you're looking for is not quite what's in the portfolio, they may work with you. They may take you on as a client. It may not be something they'll ever want to talk about or post about, right? But if you like an aesthetic and you think, okay, this is kind of the help I need, and then also look at their words. I just feel like all of the writing and rewriting I have done for this round, I've relaunched my website late last year, I think. So much of the rewriting and the photography I have redone is like, I feel very aligned with who that is. And, all of this stuff changes over time. And sometimes you don't quite have enough time to update your portfolio. And for example, for me, don't look on my social media because my last post is from a really long time ago. But you can look on my website and see my work and see that you can get and consult with me. I actually have some prices there. I think it's important for people to understand what kind of price point they are getting into. But ultimately, have a conversation with them. If you can get on Zoom with them, maybe it is face-to-face if it's local, but get on a conversation at least 30 minutes to get the words out of who you are and just hear how they like to work. What is a thing that they enjoy doing? Because it's an interview both ways. You want to make sure that you want to work with that person, right? You want them to kind of figure out the ethos and the essence of your brand for you. And vice versa, you want the designer to be excited about your project and the thing that they are creating for you. So for me, it's website. If you go to paperreka.com, you can absolutely find out more about me, what I look like, not just behind the mic. Now you know what I sound like. There you can see what I look like. And just kind of ethos about how I work, examples of some of my work, and then hop on a free consultation call with me and see what your project is about. And then we can go from there.
Yeah, fabulous. And I love that sometimes you hop on these calls and you have a realization, oh, this is not the person. And give yourself that time to hop on the call to really figure that out, and don't make a decision on the call necessarily either, and unless it is a full body yes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you may like the designs, but what if maybe you're just not like a good personality match?
Yeah.
That can really make or break a project as well.
Absolutely. I have quoted people accordingly, where getting on the call with them, I'm like, wow, this is going to be very complicated. And I quoted them accordingly. And then they said no. And I was like, perfect. So I completed the task. I gave you the thing, but I already knew there was not going to be probably alignment here. But for a certain price point, I would have said yes. And then it was like, okay, you have self-selected because you also know that this is too much. Too much to enter into this with me. And that happens. And you just don't get that energetic thing from emails necessarily. Sometimes you can, it's like, oh my gosh, I absolutely adore this person. This is great. But it's like getting even just like 30 minutes face to face with someone. It's so nice. You just get that vibe check down.
Perfect. So, if you are interested in checking out Réka's amazing design, her portfolio, and seeing her beautiful face, please go to her website, paperreka.com. And if you are feeling like it's time for your brand to get some clarity and to maybe have a facelift, or maybe you're just going in a new direction and need somebody to help clear some of that clutter for you, Réka does offer 30-minute initial consults so that you can have the vibe check together.
Have the vibe check.
And really determine whether or not this is going to be a good match for both of you. And again, you're interviewing her just as much as she's interviewing you.
Yes.
So this is your time to be able to reach out if you're struggling, if you're frustrated, if you're burnout, if you are lacking clarity, if you need the clutter cleared. Please reach out to Réka. Her website, again, is paperreka.com. You can go to her service pages and book that 30-minute initial consult, and she would be happy to help you clear out some of that clutter and get clarity on what it is that your brand is truly needing in this chapter.
Absolutely.
So thank you again so much for sharing all of your wisdom. And until next time, don't forget to boss less and babe more.